used to tell my brother Daryl that we gang banging and going crazy out here in these streets, man, but it doesn't lead.
It's been 21 years since Barry White passed away, but recently his family have come forward to talk about hidden aspects of their father's life. They confirmed some rumors and revealed details that were kept private for years.
He made music that was conducive for love.
What could these rumors be? Why are they only coming out now? But before we get into these revelations, let's go back to Barry White's early life and see what made him the icon he became.
When I was 4, I started getting interested in music through my mother.
Barry White, originally named Barry Eugene Carter, was born on September 12, 1944, in Galveston, Texas. His father, Melvin A. White, and his mother, Sadie Marie Carter, were never married, and Barry took his mother's last name at first. Later, he decided to use his father's surname, White. Barry grew up in the Watts neighborhood of South Central Los Angeles, a challenging place with limited resources. He was the oldest of 2 boys, with his brother Daryl, only 13 months younger. Growing up, Barry was surrounded by music. His mother had a collection of classical records which he loved to listen to. The melodies and rhythms inspired Barry, and he quickly picked up how to play the piano by copying the songs he heard. By age 11, he was already making music on his own. Some people even believed he played the piano on Jesse Belvin's 1956 hit song, "Goodnight, My Love." But in a 1995 interview, Barry explained this was just a rumor. He admitted he and Belvin did live near each other, but they didn't play music together since Barry was still very young at the time.
I love my neighborhoods. I love my guys, the businessmen. We were something to see. But all good things must come to an end. And the day I went to jail is when it all came very clear to me that I had to change my life.
Barry went to Jacob Arias High School, an all-boys school in Los Angeles. It was there that he experienced a dramatic change. Around age 13, his voice deepened suddenly, going from a high-pitched boy's voice to the rich, deep tone we all know today. Barry and his mother were both surprised by how fast his voice changed, realizing this was a turning point in his life. That deep voice would become his signature sound and make him famous in the years to come. But not everything went smoothly in Barry's teenage years. At age 16, he got into serious trouble. White spent his formative years in South Central Los Angeles, where he and his younger brother Daryl engaged in petty crimes. Daryl, more of a troublemaker, had already faced juvenile detention by the age of 8.
And I used to tell my brother Daryl that we gang banging and going crazy out here in these streets, man, but it doesn't lead.
As the brothers entered their mid-teens in the early 1960s, their mischievous activities escalated into something more perilous. "We were a 2-man gang, respected and feared," White said later via The Independent. "For years, we ran and ruled the streets of our neighborhood." Joining the Businessmen, a formidable territorial gang in South Central, they became embroiled in illicit activities such as D-dealing. The gang, aptly named the Businessmen, considered themselves as strategic operators, focusing on what they perceived as business. During his one interview, he said, "So I tell young people the truth, and a lot of them listen," he said. "They know I've been to jail. I've never hid my past, and I never will. I don't want any young person to think he's stuck in that misery." The gang's operations included violent conflicts with rival gangs like the Slossons, the Gladiators, and the Del Vikings. These confrontations often resulted in serious injuries and even deaths, with weapons ranging from knives and blunt instruments to firearms being used.
To an end, and the day I went to jail is when it all came very clear to me that I had to change my life.
Tragically, in the same year, his brother Daryl fell victim to a rival gang, paying the ultimate price in the violent gang war. However, his life remained the same. In his teenage years, Barry White, deeply entrenched in the gangs of Los Angeles, experienced a turning point when he spent approximately 4 months in jail at the age of 16. The reason for his incarceration was the theft of tires amounting to $30,000, likely orchestrated by the gang, leading to a 7-month prison sentence. It was during this period of confinement that White engaged in soul-searching.
To me that I had to change my life. I had to change my attitude. I had to change my way of thinking. Yeah, I even had to change some of my...
However, this was his turning point. Barry, grief-stricken and deeply affected, pledged to abandon a life of crime forever. Serving his sentence in a juvenile detention center, he contemplated his future. But what made him deliberately shift towards music, which was totally different from his past life? According to him, during his time in prison, a transformative moment occurred when he listened to Elvis Presley's "It's Now or Never." He vividly described the experience as an awakening, akin to being struck in the face with a baseball bat. Despite his earlier commitment to avoid trouble, he found himself back in custody a few weeks after his release in 1960, charged with attempted M. Fortunately, he was exonerated when his alleged victim emerged from a coma and accurately identified the true assailant.
Barry is a very, very warm person because he has such a passion for what he does.
After getting out of jail, Barry was more determined than ever to make something of himself. He credits a few special moments for putting him on the path toward music. One of those moments happened on his 18th birthday, which was also the first day back at school for his senior year. Instead of going to school that day, Barry decided to skip class and head to Hollywood. He walked all the way to Capitol Records headquarters and stood across the street, watching people go in and out of the busy building. The energy and excitement of the music business were clear, and Barry knew then that he wanted to be a part of it. Even though he didn't know how to read or write music at that time, he was determined to find his way into the industry. A friend invited him to join a band and sing bass, and Barry accepted. This was his first real step into the music world. In the early 1960s, Barry joined a band called the Upfronts, and they released a song called "Too Far to Turn Around."
I'll be too far to...
He also tried recording some songs on his own, working with small music groups. Despite his talent, success didn't come easy. The music industry was tough, and Barry faced many challenges. But he didn't give up. Instead, he kept working with various small music labels in Los Angeles, learning all he could about the industry. However, simply deciding to pursue music wasn't enough. He spent almost a decade trying to get noticed and make a mark in the world of music. Along the way, White worked on collaborations and slowly fought his way to the top. Barry was not just a singer, he took on many roles. He was a songwriter, a session musician, playing instruments on other people's records, and an arranger, which means he helped organize how songs should sound. This hard work started to build his reputation in the music world. During this time, Barry worked with Bob Keane at Delphi Records and became an A&R man, someone who finds new talent for a new label called Bronco Records. Barry helped other artists, including Viola Wills and the Bobby Fuller Four, gain recognition. One of Barry's biggest achievements in his early career was discovering a singer named Felice Taylor. Barry and his friend Paul Politi co-wrote and arranged songs for her, including a hit called "I Feel Love Comin' On," which became popular in the UK. This success helped Barry gain more respect in the industry as someone who could create hit songs for others.
Not only was he a great singer, but he was like a great performer.
Let the music play.
Barry's career was moving forward. He signed with Forward Records as a producer, which meant he helped guide and shape other artists in music. White's journey to music fame had a lot to do with some key people who believed in him. One of the most important was a businessman named Larry Nunes. Larry got involved in Barry's career early on, and his support would be a big turning point for Barry. Barry's friend Paul Politi introduced him to Larry, who soon became not just a friend, but a crucial backer of Barry's work. Larry believed in Barry's talent and took a big step by financing an album for the girl group Love Unlimited, called "From a Girl's Point of View, We Give to You." Love Unlimited. The group was made up of his future wife, Gloden James, her sister Linda James, and their cousin Diane Taylor. They trained with Barry for 2 years before signing with Uni Records. This girl group became a hit, and it opened even more doors for Barry. Barry was deeply involved with Love Unlimited's music. He didn't just write for them, he also produced and arranged their songs. One of the first hits he created for them was the song "Walking in the Rain" with "The One I Love." This track took off, becoming a major success. It was even a hit overseas, reaching number 14 in the UK. This was a huge milestone for Barry. He now had a million-selling single, and his name was gaining recognition in the music world. The song's success earned him a gold disc from the RIAA, which was a huge achievement and cemented his reputation as a talented producer and songwriter.
When women listened to Barry White, they felt like they were getting taken care of.
Yet many people didn't really understand him or see him for who he truly was. While he had fans all over the world, there were people who didn't take him seriously and even made fun of him. This hurt White, but he didn't let it stop him. He kept doing what he loved, making music that made people feel good. In the music world, Barry White's lyrics were sometimes seen as too steamy or too romantic. Some critics thought he only made trashy music and didn't respect his work.
In the last 3 years in America, the birth rate of America had gone up 5% thanks to Barry White's music.
According to The Guardian, this image of him as a love singer wasn't always meant as a compliment. White talked about how people called him different names, like sex symbol, but he didn't let that bother him. He said, "I'm none of that. I'm Barry White." To him, his identity wasn't in the nicknames or the labels. He was just himself, Barry White, and that was enough. White liked to keep things simple, reminding people that he was about more than just love songs. His music was a way to make people feel good about themselves and feel connected to others.
He made music that was conducive for love.
But as he got older, Barry White faced challenges with his health. Performing live became harder for him, especially as he struggled with swelling in his legs and ankles. This condition, known as edema, made it difficult for him to stand up and move around on stage. Instead of being patient and understanding, some fans were disappointed when they saw him sitting during his shows. His manager, Ned Shankman, shared in a documentary that some people in the audience would even boo him because they wanted the old, energetic Barry White, who would walk around and play the piano. It was heartbreaking for White and his family. White's son later explained that his father was doing the best he could. He wasn't able to stand up, but he was trying. He was struggling, but he was trying, and God bless him for that. Even with his health issues, Barry White still put in effort to give his fans a good show. He didn't let his illness keep him from sharing his gift, and he tried to perform as best he could. While Barry White did rack up several honors and triumphs in the course of his career, there was one dream he didn't get a chance to see through. In Love Unlimited, Insights on Life and Love, he wrote about having missed the opportunity to work with one of his favorites, Marvin Gaye. They were finalizing a project together when the singer unexpectedly passed away. His passing hit me so hard and deep, White wrote. It broke my heart. He was looking to make an even bolder leap, to stretch, to work himself to a new level. Now he is gone forever. It is everybody's loss. The loss was very personal for White, who spoke to Gaye just days before he died. Gaye asked the musician to help him with his next album and produce it. White told him, "Marvin, you're insane. You don't need a producer. That's the last thing you need." He added that he'd be happy to brainstorm with Gaye, but was convinced that no one could make music like him. "I can never produce Marvin Gaye," he said. "Marvin is the only one that can produce Marvin." Sadly, the duo never got to produce their project together.
Well, here I am, baby. Practice what you preach.
Despite being called the king of romance, his romances didn't have happy endings. Barry's first marriage was to a woman named Mary. She was his childhood sweetheart, and they married when Barry was just 19 years old. Together, they had 4 children. However, as time went by, Barry and Mary's relationship started to change. Life got difficult, and the love they once shared began to fade. By 1969, they decided to go their separate ways. They finally divorced. After his split from Mary, Barry found love again. This time, it was with a singer named Eugene James, a member of the female singing group called Love Unlimited. The two worked closely in their music careers, creating songs that became hits like Walking in the Rain with the One I Love. As earlier mentioned, their connection went beyond the studio. Barry and Eugene love blossomed, and they got married. Barry and Eugene made a great musical team, and in 1981, they released an album together called Barry and Glodden. This album was special because it showed the world their deep connection, both on stage and off. They had 4 children together, and many people saw them as the perfect couple. But the music industry isn't easy, and their relationship began to feel the strain. By 1988, rumors started that they were living separate lives. Though they were no longer truly together, they never legally divorced. Despite living apart, Barry and Glodden stayed legally married until Barry's death in 2003. Because they were still married, Glodden became the person in charge of Barry's estate, managing all his belongings and music rights. This situation made her the sole decision-maker over Barry's legacy after his passing. Toward the end of his life, Barry was reportedly in a relationship with another woman named Catherine Denton. Though he shared his later years with Catherine, Barry never divorced Glodden. This meant that, in the eyes of the law, Glodden was still his wife when he died.
Well, here I am, baby. Practice what you preach.
Now let's briefly talk about Barry's solo career. White's solo career took off in the 1970s, but it almost didn't happen that way. Barry didn't want to be a singer at first. He preferred to produce music for others. However, his friend Larry Nunes heard his recordings and was convinced Barry's voice needed to be heard by the world. Larry encouraged him to release the songs himself, and Barry took the chance. This decision changed Barry's life. Barry White released his first solo album, I've Got So Much to Give. The album included the hit I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little More Baby, which was a huge success. It topped the R&B charts and reached number 3 on the pop charts. Fans loved Barry's deep voice and romantic lyrics, and soon he became known for his smooth, soulful sound. He continued to produce hits, including Never Never Gonna Give You Up and Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe. His rich voice, large frame, and smooth style earned him nicknames like the Walrus of Love in the UK and Dr. Love in the US.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna.
Barry's popularity spread worldwide. He had several top 10 hits in the UK, like You're the First, The Last, My Everything, which topped the charts there. Barry left his record label, 20th Century Records, and started his own label, Unlimited Gold, with CBS Columbia Records. However, the 1980s brought tough times for Barry. Disco music was becoming less popular, and he struggled to have the same success he had before. Though he released several albums, only a few songs, like Change, made an impact. Running his own label became financially difficult, so Barry decided to focus more on performing live. Eventually, he had to shut down Unlimited Gold. Barry signed with A&M Records and released The Right Night and Barry White. The album included the single Show You Right, which reached number 17 on the R&B charts. Barry continued to release music, and he put out The Man Is Back, which had popular songs like Super Lover and When Will I See You Again. The 90s brought a new wave of popularity for Barry. People were feeling nostalgic for the 70s, and Barry's music fit right in. He worked with Quincy Jones on a song called The Secret Garden, Sweet Seduction Suite, which helped reignite interest in his music. Barry's album Put Me in Your Mix reached number 8 on the Billboard R&B Albums chart, and the title song hit number 2 on the R&B Singles chart. Barry released The Icon Is Love, which was a major success. The album topped the Billboard R&B charts, and the song Practice What You Preach became his first number 1 R&B single in nearly 20 years. This album even earned Barry a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Album, although he lost to TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool. Barry continued to make music with other artists, including Tina Turner, with whom he recorded the song In Your Wildest Dreams.
The longer we worked on it, we felt, yeah, it's a song where it needs to be a couple some kind of way.
It has to be a song that I appreciate, that I really am attracted to. And we can do something.
That same year, he contributed to the Space Jam soundtrack with comedian Chris Rock on the song Basketball Jones. Barry released his final album, Staying Power. The title track reached number 45 on the Billboard R&B charts and won him 2 Grammy Awards for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance and Best Traditional R&B Vocal Performance. That same year, Barry published his autobiography, Love Unlimited, co-written with Mark Elliott, giving fans an inside look into his life and career. Amidst his success, White faced many serious health problems in his life. These health issues affected him greatly, especially in his final years. Barry struggled with his weight throughout his life. He was overweight for most of his adult years, reaching up to 375 pounds, 170 kilograms. His weight caused him many health complications, including heart and kidney problems, which became life-threatening over time. Barry was also a heavy smoker. It was reported that he smoked around 150 cigarettes a day. Smoking this much put even more stress on his body, especially on his heart and lungs. Because of these lifestyle choices, he developed high blood pressure, which led to more serious health issues. In the last part of his life, Barry's health got worse quickly. He was dealing with kidney problems and had to go through dialysis, a treatment that cleans the blood when the kidneys can no longer do it. He was waiting for a kidney transplant, but his health was not strong enough to get one. In May 2003, Barry suffered a stroke. A stroke happens when blood flow to a part of the brain is cut off, and it can cause long-lasting damage. For Barry, it affected his ability to speak and caused weakness on one side of his body. This stroke forced him to step away from his music career and retire from performing in public. Barry's family members shared that he was having a very hard time. His half-sister Sandra said in a documentary that during his last concert, Barry could barely stand. She recalled that he managed to finish the show, but he nearly collapsed afterward. Even though his health was poor, Barry was hesitant to seek medical help or make changes to improve his health. Barry's daughter also spoke about her father's struggles. She said that in May 2003, Barry had surgery to place a catheter in his arm so he could continue dialysis. Unfortunately, soon after, he had a stroke that worsened his condition. Though he tried to stay positive, his health continued to decline. Sadly, on July 4th, 2003, Barry White passed away in Los Angeles due to heart failure. He was only 58 years old. His body was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the ocean off the California coast. His family, friends, and fans were heartbroken by his loss. A TV documentary later explored Barry's life and health struggles, shedding light on how hard it was for him in his last years.